crowd. What a great group of people. I'm so pumped that you are all here. Welcome to WordHack. We are here at WordHack at Wonderville. It happens the third Thursday of every month. Rody, can we cut the machines a little bit? We are here the third Thursday of every month here at Wonderville. WordHack is a monthly show centered around ye old intersection of language and technology. So it's a place where we think about how words hang out with computers and phones and code in different ways that technology can affect the way we read, write, think about language. And we've been doing this for a long time. We're now 12 years running, which is pretty cool. A lot of people in this room have written a lot of different waves of technologies that play with words in different ways. And this is a fun space where people can share experiments and with things that they're playing around with. And we have people with, it's kind of designed to be a big tent space with all kinds of backgrounds welcome. So we have people here that have backgrounds in writing and then are just like playing around with applying some code to their writing maybe, or people that are game developers and building a language focus in their game, or people that are linguists or researchers that are kind of like using some computational research tools to identify new things about language. And all those kinds of folks have their own little worlds and people they can talk to, but it's kind of hard to find spaces where we can talk to each other and hang out and do that sort of thing. And WordHack is here to be that sort of space, and also just the kind of low-key, casual, intellectual space where we can drink a beer, have a fun conversation. Am I too quiet? Okay, cool. I'm a little louder. Thank you in the back for the encouragement to speak my truth to you. It's great to be here at WordHack with all of you. We've got some amazing presenters this evening. We're going to be joined by American artist Melanie Hoff and Morry Kolman. Give it up for your featured presenters. And at the top of every WordHack, we have a thing that has been part of it since the beginning 12 years ago, which is the open projector. So I first came to New York in 2010. I was at that time, if you can believe it, deep in the slam poetry scene. I was at the New Eurekan, I was at Louder Arts, I was at the Bowery Poetry Club. A lot of these places, you would just show up and you didn't really have to know anyone. If it was open mic night, you put your name on the paper for the open mic. If it was poetry slam night, you put your name on the paper for the poetry slam. And no one needs to like curate you or think you're cool to be able to read your poem in front of a room full of people. And especially when you're just starting out, it's really important to have a space where you can just do your thing in front of a room full of people without having to get through any kept gates. And I found that like as I started making technology-based work, that was really not the case in technology. Like if someone's gonna like plug your laptop into a projector, they kind of want to know you first. And I don't feel that way. I don't need to know you first. You can just come right up here and plug your laptop right in. I don't care. Just go crazy. And so we have this sheet that I put out at the front of every show. And we have 6 slots here, 5 minutes each. I do keep time on the 5 minutes. Listen for my little phone alarm if you think you might be at 5 minutes. Don't be stressed out or feel bad if you do go over, but do finish up if you do hear that. But yeah, it's we get all kinds of things here on the open projector. I love hearing that it gives people a reason to like finish a project or a reason to share things. But it's also a place you can share just a project that's just beginning or something that's unfinished. I've received from feedback from some WordHack regulars that open projectors have been too good and that or too polished, like too complete, and you can be the change we see in WordHack and show up with your like partially concocted idea here on stage. So I just want you to know that this is a safe space for your work in process. Don't feel bad though if you do have a nice presentation. I won't be mad. Let's get started with the open projector. And let's give a warm welcome to Avery.
Yes. So as far as the projector, is it it's like warming up or?
Yeah, it usually takes like a solid minute.
Okay, sick.
Oh, dangle time. Oh yeah. I'm not sure if he needs to like press a button for it to go through. Oh, hey.
Okay, sick. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second performance of the second report of the Non-Binary Research Facility. Tonight, I will be sharing and walking you through an experimental procedure we've been performing over the last several months. And near the midway point, I will be transmutating my consciousness into the surrounding expanse. But do not worry, this is something I'm well versed in. It's very safe when done correctly. So let me just get started here. Okay, great. So what is gender? This is a question we're constantly asking at the Non-Binary Research Facility. I'm sure you've heard of gender as social construct, but no one really talks about what you can do once gender's constructed. What are the functionalities of gender once it's up, okay? That's what I want to highlight here. My body is my temple, and if a temple is to be created, a temple must be destroyed. All right, so my laptop's just opening the website here. Great, okay, it autonomously made it all the way to the website, so huge. Okay, so here we go. These are some of the preliminary results. We're going to move through them rather quickly. No need to read everything. Okay, great. So at the bottom, you can see some of my dosages from hormone replacement therapy. And of course, these are the photos from me every day using GlanceBack. And part of what I'm trying to say here is that I couldn't have changed my name if I didn't have a name to begin with. You know. By the way, did you know that PVC is an endocrine disruptor? Or rather, its constituent parts, DBP and phthalates, they're anti-androgens. Translation, exposure to DBP and PVC is literally hormone replacement therapy. I'm going to drink some in a bit. Yeah, so at the bottom, I've got my dosages and weights. But sometimes things don't go as planned. I'm not supposed to be here. There's been some kind of mistake. I'm not from here. I know that's unsettling, but saying it doesn't keep it from here. I know that's unsettling, but saying it doesn't. Oh my God, I think I'm going to be sick. So long story short, I fucked up. I accidentally grew a boob, or at least I started to anyway. That wasn't the plan. What the fuck have I done? I've done a lot of drugs before, but none of them were this permanent. What did I take again? I took it too far. I took this whole thing way way too far. Why are you so nervous? I'm pretending, see? But back to the body horror thing, you can't undo that. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay, I'm gonna finish up here. Thank you so much. Basically, the rest of it is that I realized that this question has been solved before by bodybuilders over thousands of years doing synthetic tea who've taken relaxafine. And when you take synthetic tea, you start to grow boobs out of, accidentally when your tea goes too high, and they've solved this problem already. And then I found that I could address this with this lineage with bodybuilders who also had body dysmorphia. So yeah, that's me. Thank you so much. Yes. Do you mind? I just need a web browser. Yeah, go for it. I think I'm next. Are you Adam or Cat? Cat.
Amazing tone setting presentation from Avery. Let's give it up for Kadam.
Slight first open projector jitters. Also, I haven't typed on a keyboard apparently ever. Okay, I think that's right. Hello, my name's Kadam. I have hacked this together and it involves words, so hopefully that qualifies it to be here. But as we look at art, frequently we are not sufficiently prepared for the impact that it has upon us. And when I go to a gallery, I find that I frequently exceed my daily value of such things as pretension and aspiration. And so I've been wondering about whether we could put together some sort of thing for a long time now where we could warn people about the quantity of various dimensions in an artwork and use that to guide our viewing and our experience, and also just to take better care of ourselves. We've already seen the impact of even small milligrams of various substances tonight. So there's been things like this that I have found on the internet, but they're largely decorative and very cottagecore and twee, and that's very cool. I'm into that. But if we wanted to say, like, let's take here, let's come up with what it would be for WordHack. You know, I think there is a little bit of pretension here, not much, not a critical amount. There's a lot of sincerity. There's a little bit of trauma in some presentations. I feel like there's like usually a reasonable amount of confusion and AV issues as well. There's usually a lot of activism. There's a lot of studiousness, a decent amount of nostalgia, particularly in the retro video game styled host nation, and then a lot of whimsy. So you can go through here and you can generate a card, and you can say, you know, it's content editable, so I can go in here and say words hacked, for example. can say one Thursday is the suggested size. I've actually never looked at this on PC before, so sorry for the layout issues. And then, if trauma isn't actually what we're going for here, we can say AV issues. And we can actually also alter the quantities to say many. And then sincerity, grams, maybe we actually need to up that to gallons. And so you can go through and you can take these parameters, you can adjust them, and then you can actually also save it. So it doesn't currently maintain the edits to the form, but it'll maintain the relative values. And I'm thinking that this would be the great thing to take and encode in, for example, a QR code that you could leave in a gallery next to an artwork that you particularly like, and have that be available for the viewer as something that they can experience. As Todd was saying, that WordHack is a good excuse to finish projects you've always wanted to do. Between this and a party a few weeks ago, like this went from being an idea over a decade ago to something that I hope you will all inflict on the world. I can share the link. And then because things are better when they're tangible, we got this little receipt printer, and you can actually print out a little slip indicating the various dimensions of the artwork you're experiencing as either a memento or a warning for those who come after you. I'm Kadam. The link is kadamwhite.github.io/artnutritionfacts. I don't know what we post on anymore, but I'd love it if people could give me feedback on it, figure out whether there's better dimensions to encode in the forum. Thank you.
And Avery, I just want to leave your computer plugged in a little bit. Rody, projector's out of focus. What's the best way to do? Is there a remote for it, or do I need to get a ladder? Yeah, I just want to be able to read intensity without hurting my eyes. Artifacts, serving size. Oh, yes. Here we go. It's there. Oh, all right. Great timing, Kadam. Well, came in right under. Yeah, I personally would say that WordHack is a little more melancholy than 1 gram. We can get into a melancholic mood around here. There's certainly some confusion and some whimsy. I feel like whimsy deserves to be in the top bar, but I feel like melancholy is a nice way to cut. It's like the citrus to the sweetness of whimsy, and it really cuts through there. Yeah, is this the world we are living in now? This is a nice time to greet our friends on twitch.television. Wow, what's up, Micro NS and Meet Daddy 69420? We got Amelia and Smarmy. Scrimblow's here. What's up, Scrimblow? Nice to see you. Hey, Jetson Live. We have, if you ever can't or don't want to come to this show, you can watch online on twitch.tv/Wonderville NYC. We've got some dedicated folks that watch pretty regularly, and I can see you over here, and you can say hello. They're saying stuff like "what up" and "hi." That could be you at one point in the future. Are we in focus yet? Oh no, it's even worse up close. Rody, do I need to get a ladder? Okay. Yeah, that also looks out of focus. Oh, I'm not helping. Just breathing on the microphone. Just breathing in the microphone. What's your favorite projector?
Sony.
Sony. That's a good one. I like ViewSonic. It's cheap, and the colors are bright for the value. All right, do we power through? Should we put the screen down? Or, oh, nice. All right, here he comes. Let's give it up for our tech guy, Rody. There's a lot of wires in this place, and someone's got to plug them in.
We can try lowering the screen to see if it helps, but I think it's just the projector. This is a new one. I've never seen this one before until today, so it might just be that whoever set it up didn't. So
Yeah, I mean, could we get a ladder up there and just
potentially
fiddle the knob?
We can try it with the screen down there.
yeah. Let me
But
try
then
the
where are
screen
people
first.
going to go?
I have no idea. Sorry, this is not a planned thing. Let me see if we even have the ladders. So I'm gonna go out back.
Okay, so what I've been informed is that it's a new projector. We got a new projector. So its brightness is here. We got some brightness. We've got a crisp picture, but the focus is. WordHack really likes to put the projector to the test in terms of reading words from a distance. Yeah, this chart is a good way to test it. Yeah, I don't think I should try to hold your attention through this entire technical difficulty break, as much as I would like to attempt to. I'm going to let Avery get their laptop back, and we are going to, let's take a 5 to 10 minute break while we try and get the projector up and running. Thanks for your patience, everybody. All right, everybody. This is going to be a word hack like no other. A word hack, close, intimate, connection with the audience. What I've learned is that the projector that we usually use died last night, and this was just installed to replace it mid-event. So during the break, we'll try and manually focus it on a ladder, but too many people in here to be on a tall ladder. So we're gonna use the trusty screen for the first part, which means future open projector presenters prepare to get comfortable on the edge of the stage. You might need to be over here. You can be hidden behind if you would like to be, or you can be out among people if you would like to be. But we're gonna keep rolling, keep moving, and yeah, thank you for bearing with us. And shout out to Rody and Shane for bringing down the screen. All right, WordHack continues. All right, warming back up the open projector. Oh yeah, yo, in the back, I'm starting the show back up. Thank you. All right, great. I don't have my verticality of authority, but I do still have my commanding presence, and I will use it. Coming up next to the open projector, it's Isabel Lee. Give it up for Isabel. Well, you can sit on the edge of the stage, or you can put your laptop up here.
Can I plug it in from here?
Yeah. I have a dongle for you.
I have a HDMI as well.
Yeah, this one. Okay. And do you have sound?
No, I don't need sound.
And then I can get a little mic stand for you.
I can just go off from here.
Oh, okay, great.
I only need one hand. Thank you. Do I have to choose to mirror? Don't see my choice. I don't see that. Oh, okay. Choose content, entire screen. Yay!
Can you read the text? Yeah.
Okay.
We're WordHacking now.
Cool. We're time to start? Yeah. All right. Hi, I'm here to talk about Number Gotcha, which is not about words, but I would argue is about the language of games. But I have a quick intro before we go into the game. So hi, I'm Isabel. I make games for my job and also my personal practice, and I play a lot of games too. I feel like I play a lot of different genres of games, a lot of different platforms, and some of you might recognize. And something that's really interesting to me as someone who makes games is how all of them have really different mechanics and different themes and premises, like you're dating monsters or you're fighting or you're playing cards, and they're all fun. And I feel like maybe this is a kind of basic question, but I think it's good to ask, what makes something fun? What makes a game fun? Is it hot and sexy anime girls? Is it growing in skill and mastering a game? Is it building a virtual home and finding community? Or is it just gambling? Is it just hijacking your brain, all the dopamine signals? I think that this would be a very cynical way, just gambling, to look at games, but I do think it is a big part of what modern games use to keep you playing, to help keep you spending money. I think games can be works of art, but there's also a big element of this that we can't ignore. That's how it makes money in a lot of different ways. And so that kind of begs a different question that's related, but what makes something addicting? And I think fun and addicting are different, related but different questions. And I think addicting itself is exactly what gacha games are. And if you don't know what a gacha game is, a very like vague description is like imagine a toy capsule or a Pokemon pack or like a blind box. You don't know what you're gonna get. You can buy more and more and more, and you know, it's gambling. It's like a slot machine. You don't know what you're gonna get, but you want the most valuable thing. And so the premise for my new game is how far could a gacha game be stripped back and still work and make you feel good? So this is number gacha. And so I'm gonna press roll and we're gonna see what happens. Yay! It's rare. All right, let's do it again. Wow. It is RNG, so that was actually, oh my god. Okay, it's on. Another 16. Okay, so this is the very beginning of the game. As you can see, we've unlocked an achievements container over here. I'm gonna jump over to my local host so I can like show you what, like I can use my cheat menu. So let's roll, oh my god, done. Let's roll 50 numbers. Wow, okay, we've gotten 20% of the numbers. Let's unlock the pack shop. Whoa, there are packs. Let's unlock the 50s. Let's, whoa. Lock number, you'll need a key. There are charms, which are meta upgrades. You can get faster. What's this battle button here? Whoa, there's combat in this game? So this is the game. As you can see, I've stuffed a ton of mechanics, but they're stripped down to their, you know, most essential part of opening packs, rolling numbers, combat with numbers. You know, kind of a parody. It started out as a parody, and then I realized it was actually really fun. So it's a full game, and it's like, you know, tuned to be fun and not be like just a piece of like web art. So if you want to play, it's on mobile and desktop. I did both. It's at this URL. Yeah, I'm sorry if you get addicted, but also have fun. All right, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, and you know you can slice off the top of your pack with on your phone, just like be like, I get so many fucking numbers. Hell yeah. That's an amazing project. I love to gamble. Coming up next on the open projector, it's Florida Yvonne. Florida Yvonne? Hey, welcome. Do you have HDMI port or do you need a dongle?
Oh wait, no, there's HDMI.
And do you have sound?
I don't need sound. I think I just need my voice.
Just make sure you're talking to the mic because we won't be able to see you.
Entire screen. Hello. Hi, I'm very short, so I think you can see me. I wanted to be mysterious, but it's not happening today. I'm too you can't be mysterious when you're short. And okay. My name is Florida Ivan, and today I'll be presenting my final project for the SFPC class that I just finished, Form Flow Feel. The title of my project is It's a working title. It's called Onion. Um, for context, the project. Also, am I clear? Because I'm wearing invisible align. Okay, cool. And I'm also wearing a mask, so I hope I'm clear and not lispy. If not, I will take my teeth off, I guess. Um, but the project prompt was to draw inspiration from a data set from your own personal life or ecological cycles, such as the moon cycle and things like that, and use it to develop some kind of a personal visual language. So there's not much words that we're gonna go through, but if anything, this is in a way a love letter to my friends. And I'm gonna show you the project first and talk about the process. So the onion is an abstracted visual representation of the connections that I have with my friends. So let me show you how it works. The onion visuals are generated from data that I've collected from my friends with their consent and myself. I sent out a questionnaire where you can answer from 1 to 10 to my friends, like the questions like, how long have we known each other? How much do you like our relationship? I also asked my friends to pick color palettes to represent themselves, color palettes to represent our friendship. And for each friend, I've also had to answer all of these questions for each of them. So in the end, I've have data from each side of the friendship. So looking at this, you can see there's like wheels, which represents each. This is not all of my friends, by the way. I have more friends. Um, I promise. These are just the ones who submitted a form before the deadline. So shout out to all of them. I tried to keep them anonymous, but they represent each of the friends that submitted a form. Each of these wheels are a visual representation of my friendship with this person. There's 3 qualities that I'm visualizing. You can see below, I don't know how clear it is. It's like insight, perception, and mutuality. And I also tried to obscure the data externally, so, but I think there's a way to like hack it, unfortunately. So if you know how to use developer tools, you can totally see the data. I wish I would have obscured the data to myself, but I didn't have time to build that for myself, unfortunately. So I had to use a Google form. But the best thing that I've learned is that if you guys want to know how much your friends like you, send them a Google form and say it's for a project. And so let's go through each and one of these. Each of these categories contribute to 5 dials that I get to control: the rings, the size, the thickness, the saturation of the palette. Insight is a portrait of the person, each of us, the colors we select for ourselves, how old we are. But it's not too revealing, but that's the point. Like, I don't really, you can't really tell how old I am. I hope not, from the visual spinning thing that you can see. Who knows? I could be in my early 20s. Ha ha ha. Mutuality is the thing that, oh, this one's mutuality, is the thing that we build together. The rings represent time, and the view emphasizes the shared thing that we get to create. And perception is our perception of each other, so, or our relationship, how we like each other and how we perceive each other. And so let me tell you a little bit about how I came to this. Since you can't see me in the background, I also put photos of myself. This is what I look like, because I go to the gym and stuff. But so I'm sure you have questions like, what is up with this thing and why is it onions? As I mentioned earlier, the prompt was to take data sets and turn it into something visual. And when I was brainstorming a topic or data that I want to pull from, I kept thinking about all the relationships in my life, but I couldn't figure out how to quantify and visualize them because everyone's so unique and every relationship has its own complexities. So I went to start brainstorming and figure something out. before I got to the data set, I started with like early sketches. Over the course of a few days, like a lot of these really random sketches. Some of them look like boobs, but let's ignore that. Um, but it represents like people's energies, and I got really interested in the magnetism kind of visuals, and that's also like where I started to draw from. Simultaneously, I also remembered conversations I had with my partner revolving around how everyone has layers, and we started talking about interactions that are often surface level and how much more there's underneath the surface. And also, you know, like I started like having all these onions all over the place, and I started being like that meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie's like connecting a bunch of dots. So this is kind of like my inspiration. I was also inspired by this talk by this psychologist, um, and she was mentioning how the core competencies of relationships is around insight, mutuality, and emotional regulation. And this inspired me to break it down. And I just wanted to read a final quote from my friend's podcast. Her name is Victoria Young from the Hopeful Aromantic podcast that said, relationships are creative projects. It's two people coming together to create a third thing, which is the dynamic. A relationship, therefore, is a living thing that evolves over time. And what I got from this in the end is we each have our perceptions of a relationship and the amount of effort we put in. Either way, it still results in something beautiful and unique that we get to experience no matter what effort, length, perception, and what have you. It showed me that I don't love my friends equally. I love and cherish each of them uniquely. And that's it.
We okay? Cool. Thanks so much, Florida. Very important lesson about sending market research forms to your friends. Got to keep performance high. Up next on the open projector, it's Jonah. Give it up for Jonah. All right. Sorry for the weird setup. What kind of ports you rocking over there?
HDMI.
Do you have sound?
No.
And would you like a little stand, or do you want to hold the mic?
I can hold. If I put the stand, am I going to be doing like this?
Yeah.
All right, I'll hold it. That's
I
fine.
got a bigger stand. So this
I
is real
I only need. I can browse with one hand. Oh, how do I mirror? Here. There we go. You can see that? Oh my god, that's so scary. You can see all the things on my desktop. You can like see all the programs I use. Oh, now you can't. Okay, great. I'm Jonah. Hi. This year I'm doing a residency with a friend of mine at the New York City Synth Library, which I guess one reason to come up here was just to tell people that this exists if people don't know about it. It is a lending library for synthesizers. So you can take a synthesizer out for like a month, and it's free. And we have like a bunch of stuff. It's crazy. It's really cool. And so the residency that I'm going to do with my friend is about making Eurorack systems, which is like these weird synths that have all these wires, and they're like really, really expensive. So we're making like workshops for like cheap modular systems. But so something that we learned after coming in was that a lot of people are really interested in doing this, but really don't really know what they are. Or they're kind of like, I saw somebody with a box of wires once at a show in Bushwick, and like, that seems cool. What is that? And somebody else was like, it costs like $2,500 for the box of wires. So as a little side project, I started making these zines, which are like super brief introductions. So I did one that is, this is already pulled up here, isn't it? No. This one is like, what is a modular synthesizer? which this turned out to be like really hard to describe in these are mini zines, so they're like they're one page. We have to find where this is and hopefully not click the wrong stuff. Here it is. So these are mini zines, which means the pages are like really small in real life. Oh my god, it's open in the other thing, isn't it? I already thought about that. This one isn't though. Great. They're really tiny because each of these pages is 1/8 of a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So like that's also like too zoomed in. It's like really hard to describe what a modular synthesizer is in 6 pages of text. So I had to do stuff like say that there's like an oscillator, which is a thing that's buzzy, and there's like a filter, which is a thing that's muffly, and just not like explain anything else, which for people that are like electronics people, they're like, what do you mean? An oscillator is like, well, you take like a voltage and then it like flips back and forth because of like a saturation. And it's just like, you just don't have time to explain anything. You're just kind of like, this is like what this is. And so the second one that I did, which is maybe even more indulgent, which is like even further from like, even more generalizing, is just this, which is like, how do people design electronics? In 6 pages, which has been kind of interesting, and I guess that's kind of the like electronics, the technology and words thing is like, how do you choose which? You have like a huge thing where like each page of this is something that you get a PhD in, you know, and like know like a crazy amount about. And I also don't know that much about any of this stuff. I started designing synthesizers like 3 years ago. And then like trying to condense everything down and be like, what is this? Okay, you have like a schematic, which is like this map of everything, and you can like draw it like shittily, and it will like pen on like your notebook, or you can like make it in like software that costs $12,000, or you can make it in free software. And then there's layouts and PCBs, which are like circuit boards and all these components and stuff. Anyway, I'm mostly curious if people will like read it and give me feedback and maybe like tell me what they understood and didn't understand. The first one has been in the library and people have taken it, and like physical zines, and I think they've enjoyed it. And this one I'm also like, I'm looking for people that have like no concept of like how electronics are designed and whether or not they like this. And also I'm like, can we say normies? Is that fine? To say normies? Okay, cool. I'm like, I know it's like, all right, sweet. Because that's what I'm like for the beginner, but it's not really for the beginner. It's like everyone, no normal person like knows any of this stuff. But I also think it's just useful because like everything is made in China. Everything is made with like an incredibly complex string of designs that like go through all these different disciplines, and just nobody understands that. And I didn't understand that before like I started having to make stuff myself. So it's here on my GitHub, github.com/jsenzel1. And then I just pinned it. You could also go /zines, but I think once there's a third thing in the URL, it's like my brain usually shuts down. So, okay, thank you. That's it.
That's really cool. Anyone here play Zachtronics games? Any Zachtronics fans? Hell yeah. Yeah, there's a Zachtronics game. I forgot the title off the top of my head, but you have to read zines to learn how to program these little nanobots and make them like rob banks. It's just completely deranged. Sometimes you use them to steal healthcare too, but it's like you're basically like learning assembly through zines, and the design really looked similar with Jonah's zines. I really like that as a form factor for learning a complex topic. Thank you, Jonah. And closing out our open projector, it's Garen. Give it up for Garen. Yeah, you can be.
Thank you. I guess. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's all good. Y'all have no idea how perfect it is that there's a screen covering the majority of my face.
It's so ominous. Do you have sound?
I do not have sound, no, but I do need video. I've presented at a few WordHacks, and sometimes my ideas are dumb, and sometimes my ideas are really good. And I think this one is a fucking really good one. I think my ratio is 4 bad to 2 really good. And actually, the rest of the year, I've got some real fucking bangers, so just stay tuned. Let me know if you can see anything, because I can't tell. You can see? You can see? All right. Oops, spoilers. You see the timer, you see this, great. This is fucking dumb, but okay. All right, let's do this. Okay, so what I've done is I have typed in Obsidian, which I don't normally use. I normally use like Sublime Text or whatever to do my blogging and whatnot. Yeah, shout out Sublime Text. Maybe you cannot see this. So what I've been thinking a lot about for a long fucking time, I was gonna drop a link to this in my writing, but a minute 30 is not long enough. One of the first things I fucking published was called Against a Perpetuating Fiction, Disentangling Art from Hyperreality in the Journal of Aesthetic Education. And it basically discussed how computer art kind of is not real. I mean, it really exists, but it's not really art. And I think over time I've kind of like softened on that position, but what really frustrates me about living in this day and age is now the computer can just write for you. And I like writing, I like reading, I like thinking, and all of that is ceded over to some other company. So what I have done is, at least for currently Obsidian, I wrote it's kind of like two parts, but first part is, actually, let's go with the Obsidian part. Basically, you type in Obsidian and you ask it to mint you a proof, and what you get is a cryptographic verification that you have typed in this editor. And what that means is it captures your keystrokes, your key down, your key up, your delete, your replace, all that fun stuff. It tracks how long you've been doing that, and then on the server, which is semoi.net, semoi.net, it signs that cryptographically. And the idea is that you can share this URL and prove that you, a human, have written that information. It spits out a little share URL. It spits out a little hash so that people visiting the site later on can be like, did a human actually write this? Whoops, that's not the right one. Did a human actually write this? There it is. And then they can say, okay, like somebody put in 600 keystrokes on May 21st over the course of 1:24. You can, obviously this isn't kind of foolproof. Well, it's pretty fucking foolproof. The idea is like you as a person, if you're just like, all right, I'm gonna write a short story called The Living, and I'm gonna copy paste James Joyce's The Dead, and I'm going to replace, how do you fucking replace? Whatever. Let's just say I'm gonna call Lily Rose for this concept, and then I'm gonna mint it, and then it's gonna be like, okay, you wrote 85,000 characters in 10 seconds. That might not actually be you. That might not be a real human. A lot of these AI kind of detection bots, whatever, like they do a best guess over what you've written. They try to match it against some corpus. I've tried a couple of those, and I don't like them primarily because I don't think they're accurate, but also it's just kind of an opaque sort of system. Oh no, I'll speed through. If you're interested in using this, there's no actual, there's no data sent here. There's no actual text sent. We're just sending like your keystrokes, your characters. The server doesn't know anything about what you've actually written. It just knows that you've pressed a key down and pressed a key up. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a neat idea. I think like cryptographically proving that a human wrote something is kind of interesting, I guess. I'll end at that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Garen. You all know that I like typing. Typing's great. It's nice to see some typing every now and then. And yeah, that's a really cool, elegant way of, I always feel like trying to look for different ways people prove that they spent time working on something. And there's lots of different ways across different disciplines that people can be like, this is how I show you that I did not just shit this out. I worked laboriously on the little details of the. I was just like saw that like a little image of like, oh, in this 3D model, like the paint is uneven, like as if painted on by a like cost-saving landlord, and that is how I communicate to you that I am paying attention, and this is a nice way of communicating that you're paying attention. Let's go to for everyone on our open projector. So typically at WordHack, we have our first presenter before the break, but we lost a little bit of time to the tech issues, and I want to make sure all our featured presenters have a fully functional projector. So what I am going to do is have our break right now. This is the famous WordHack mid-show break. It's 13 minutes long, and especially I am going to need to ask people to not hang out in the center of the room, because we are going to be working on the projector, and we don't want to hurt anyone. So some places that are not the center of the room include the bar, where our wonderful bartender Jason enjoys tips, I have heard. You are allowed to tip Jason. Also, the bathroom and the backyard are not in the center of the room. So go get a drink, go to the bathroom. I'll see you back in 13. projector, everybody. Oh my goodness. You will not believe how, like, yeah, during the first part of the show, I was really feeling like, oh man, like, projector looks a little blurry, but it's probably fine. And then like, now I am confident this is a much better projector than we had before. And it is in focus and looking good. Shouts out to Rody for focusing that projector. All right, we are in the second half. It is happening, and I hope you all will continue the conversations you are having now or have just ended after the show, because there's a lot of cool people here, and I really love when people connect here at WordHack. Our first featured presenter this evening is Morry Kolman. Morry is an outstanding artist, designer, technologist, someone who is an open projector regular over the years. He has a really enthusiastic style of art that brings people in and has a lot of really exciting projects that I just find really fun. Lots of different ways you can participate in them. And I've really enjoyed seeing his work develop over the years, and it's been really looking forward to his first featured slot here at WordHack. Let's give a warm welcome to Morry Kolman.
It's oddly appropriate for the talk. Jean Laucher is famous. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people download her work. She's in your phone. She has seen your photos. You cannot send a letter without her being in the picture. She's also a loving mother, a gifted soprano, and a devout Christian. Importantly, she's also no longer with us. She leaves behind, among other things, 6 children, 14 grandchildren, and 8 great-grandchildren. And, by some measures, most impactfully, 173 letters and numbers in clean, parsable handwriting, with which anyone who wants to may use to train optical character recognition machine learning models. This is Jean Caldwell Laucher. This is her page from the MNIST dataset. These are the characters scraped from that page. And this is her obituary. Importantly, this is also her handwriting. So hi, I'm Morry, and normally when I come here, I have some fun, silly project, but over the years I found that while I really like making silly things and dumb things, oftentimes those are just a way to get to something much more meaningful. And so the last time I was here, I was doing an open projector. Here I am. and I don't know how many of you can see that, but I was pitching a project called USB Chess. And USB Chess was dumb. For it was a project where I was like, oh, well, the USPS has this service. Well, they'll scan you the outside of your mail and they'll email it to you. And then if I put that into an optical character recognition, I can have people send me letters where the letter is written on the outside of the envelope. And if I have people send me, chess moves, then you can scrape the chess moves off of them, and I can have people like do this really chaotic version of Twitch Plays Pokemon, where instead of Pokemon, it's chess, and instead of Twitch chat, it's a PO box that I own. And the thing about that is, A, it wasn't that good of an idea, and B, when I was trying to justify it to get some kind of funding, I needed to figure out a reason for specifically Mozilla to give me some money to do this. And so I was looking around for different ways I could like artistically justify this project. And I was really coming up at a loss until I was like, oh, well, it's a lot of, it's interesting because we're talking about, a form of optical character recognition done in conjunction with a public service. And OCR technology kind of starts with I'd known that OCR technology kind of started with the government, right? And like data sets that they had put out in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was like, all right, let me look more into that. And so in trying to justify one project, I came up with another one. And it's how I encountered the MNIST data set. So just for context, how many of you here are familiar with MNIST? Have done some kind of ML class, have some familiarity with it. All right, we got maybe somewhere between 7 and 12. So for background, the MNIST data set is a data set of 800,000 characters collected from 3,500 people. These people were around 3,000 US Census workers and 500 high schoolers. It was collected in 1989, and it still gets hundreds of thousands of downloads a month. What it is it is just a training data set of black and white letters. And the thing about this data set is, even though it was made in 1989, which, by the way, pre-internet, it is one of the most canonical data sets of all time. It is the fruit fly of data sets, as University of Toronto problem set puts it. It's simple and standard and useful for comparing and learning about the properties of different algorithms. And when I say that's the fruit fly data set, and when I talk about it coming from a problem set, one of the reasons that this data set is so important is because when you learn about machine learning, especially in some kind of university context, you use the MNIST data set because it is so straightforward and so ubiquitous and so clean. So for example, here is something from Carnegie Mellon University where they're assigning the MNIST data set as a problem set. Here's one from Brown. Here's one from MIT. Here's one from the University of California at San Diego. Here's one from the University of Washington. Here's one from Toronto. Here's one from Harvard, right? This data set is one of the most important and impactful machine learning data sets of all time. And what's interesting is that there's almost no history about it whatsoever. If you look up the MNIST data set and you look up some kind of history, you'll find most of it exists in the introductions or abstracts to much more technical papers about projects done with the data set. Sometimes they'll even get it wrong. A lot of times there's this misconception that the data set was created by the Postal Service, which is just factually incorrect. It was done by the US Census. But there is not that much information out there about how this data set was collected or what its legacy has been over time. Even while, again, I think maybe you could say ImageNet is a larger and more impactful one, but I don't think you could say pretty much anything else is. One other really kind of fun thing I like to talk about with the MNIST data set is that while it's created by the US government, once the internet came around 5 years later, it was hosted on the website of one up-and-coming machine learning researcher named Jan LeCun. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with what he's been doing, but since then, in the intervening 40 years, he has become and then left Meta as the chief AI scientist. And so this is a data set that from the George H.W. Bush administration has stayed relevant and important in our lives and is the genesis of a lot of the education and learning that undergirds a lot of the algorithms that we use today. And so I thought it was important. And when I came across it, I was really intrigued by it. And I was intrigued especially by two different things. First of all, it's big. It's a large data set. There's 800,000 characters, 3,500 people that these characters will scrape from, sample sheets as they're called. And importantly, and I think this is crazy to think about for 1989, but each handwriting sample sheet, so like this thing, when I'm talking about a sample sheet, I'm talking about this. Each one of these is scanned at 300 DPI, which you have to think about for the time, for 1989, a 300 DPI image is insanely large. I mean, each one of these forms is probably about, I'm sorry, I keep on opening and closing this. I'm trying to figure out how to keep it back there. But each one of these forms is maybe like 400 kilobytes or something, and there's 3,500 of them. And back then, a floppy disk was like 1.4 megabytes. And so in order to hold all the data, you literally had to have thousands of floppy disks just to keep the fidelity of information that you were trying to get from these sheets and from these characters. So that was the first thing that hit me. It's a large data set. The other thing that hit me was that it's also really small, right? 3,500 sheets is a lot, but it's not that many. And when you think about corpuses of data that exist today, normally they're on the order of billions, if not trillions of rows of data. And 3,500, I was thinking to myself, and this was late December, it was like maybe like Christmas week in December. And I was thinking to myself as I came across this, well, 3,500 sheets, that's not that many. If I look at one every second, then I can knock that all out in an hour. And so that's what I did. What I did was I was like, all right, let me go do that. Let me go just slowly tab through every single one of these handwriting sample forms. And as I was doing so, I was like, what am I looking for, right? And one thing that you'll notice as this goes on behind me is that not much changes between each form, right? The forms are extremely regimented. They tell you what to write. They tell you where to write it, and we'll get back to that. But what really immediately sticks out is like once every 10 seconds or so, you'll see something written outside of the form, right? Outside of the box, quite literally thinking outside the box. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. These are forms of data collection, right? So what exists outside of that data? Like, how can I quite literally read between the lines of this data set? And in doing that, I found a lot of interesting things. I found some really funny like little doodles, and these are mainly by high schoolers. I found some complaints about people saying they hate to print. I found some people saying like, hey, I'm sorry I fucked this thing up, or like, little hellos to somebody else, whoever is reading it. But by far the most impactful thing to me that I found were two names, and the names were Jean Caldwell-Laucher and Helen Fellows. And the thing that really struck me about those names is that my first thought was like, oh, let me reach out to these people, let me hit them up, let me see if they know that they're part of this like very long legacy that's getting ever more relevant today. And when I looked them both up, I found both of their obituaries. And in one of the more kind of like autonomous and just like compelled things I've done in my artistic career, kind of almost without thinking, I printed out both of them, and I printed out both their sheets, and I paired them together with their obituaries. I paired their handwriting sample forms with their obituaries. And I have them to give out, or just to pass around. And I encourage each of you to hold it and take a second and look at these two different parts of somebody's life. Dustin, can you take these? And Alex, can you take these? And I want to stop here for a second and kind of think about like what's interesting about these two things, right? So the first thing that I experienced when I came across these two was a sense of whiplash, right? There's this, I found out about this person. I found this person that I could talk to about about this process, right? There's no way they were going to remember it. It was in 1989. But I was like, oh my God, I can talk to somebody who's in this data set. Like, they exist, they're out there. And then I immediately found out that they weren't there. And there's not only a sense of whiplash, like, emotionally, but there's also a sense of whiplash in terms of content, right? Like, these are two extremely different forms, or extremely different, like, pieces of writing in the first place. But I think they're a little bit more similar than you might think, right? I know they seem incommensurate. I know they seem like one of them is one where somebody has talked about in the most beautiful, loving language and explained to anybody who will listen about, like, what was meaningful to them and who they were in life. And the other one is just about their handwriting. But I think they share a number of similarities. And the first thing that I thought was that, first of all, they're both cases of words that you don't choose, which I think is kind of interesting, right? You obviously don't choose the words of your obituary, but you're also kind of prescribed, this handwriting sample form prescribes what words to write and tells you what to write and, like, where to write them, etc. So I thought that was really interesting. There was a little resonance there. And I also think they're kind of interesting because they both have what the other lacks, right? Like, I think when you read the obituary, there's this sense, you write an obituary because a person's not there, right? Because in their absence, you need to provide some kind of language that tells other people who they were, what they cared about, what their life meant. But you miss the person themselves. And the person themselves, Jean in this case, is arguably the only thing that the handwriting sample form has, right? And when I say it's the only thing, I mean it's maybe not even the person herself, arguably, in my opinion, almost just her body, right? Because this handwriting sample form, it prescribes what to write, it tells you where to write it, etc. And if you think about handwriting as a fine motor skill, what it is asking you to do is act as the machine, the engine that runs that motor. And so what I find kind of fascinating about that is that tells me, at the very least, it gives me an example of, in the history of machine learning, the machine learning part of it starts before a computer is even touched, right? It starts with, how do we take this person and take a personal part of them and make it legible to a machine, right? How do we take their handwriting and turn the letters of their handwriting into text? And I think that's kind of interesting, right? The difference between handwriting and text, because they are both informational, but one has extra information, right? Information that is extraneous to the content of the message and thus is not really necessary, but carries something really human in it. And I don't know, I'm so compelled by this, and I keep on thinking about it. And kind of one other thing that I think about all of this, the way it relates to my work, is that a lot of my work is kind of about the relationship between data and attention. I really like thinking about what data we collect, what data we don't collect, how that relates to what things we care about or not care about. I think the difference between attention and care is really interesting. And a lot of my work recently, especially, has kind of been around, like, what data is ignored? Are we supposed to ignore it? What happens when we do? So, for example, I have a project called First Light, which I'm exhibiting in San Francisco in a couple weeks. And First Light is all about stars that scientists have collected with computers, but have never actually looked at, because they're collected by millions every month, and computers are the only ones that ever actually parse these and highlight the interesting ones. And so humans aren't the ones looking at them. And so that means that there are millions of stars that we've discovered, quote unquote, but never actually seen. And the project is all about highlighting that, and what does that mean for our knowledge of this very wondrous thing, which is the cosmos. I have another project called Traffic Cam Photo Booth, which was originally about what happens when you start paying attention to the data that's collected about you on the street, namely the pictures of you that are taken when you cross in front of traffic cameras in New York City, and the different sensors that they have. And then it kind of also became a project about what happens when people say you're not supposed to look at that. I got a cease and desist, and made a whole thing about it. But I think if there's a project that this most relates to, it's ironically maybe appropriately, the first project that I ever presented here at WordHack, way back long ago, which was a project I had called TikTok Clock. And TikTok Clock, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is during the pandemic, I was, I made my own TikTok account. I had a lot of fun posting videos. And I found it really interesting that in your analytics, TikTok would give you a very specific piece of information, which was how long your videos had been viewed. And I was like, I have a good amount of followers. I've had some videos go viral. I wonder what's larger, the amount of time people have spent, looking at my videos or the amount of time I've been alive. And so this clock, which was like one of the first proper like art pieces I ever made, and it's shown here in like very prototype form, was a clock that simply tracked that difference, right? The number that you see on that screen, the 611, shows that at that point, I had lived 611 more days than people had spent viewing me. And sometime in June of 2023, that number went from red to green, and it's been going up ever since. And so there's this interesting kind of like affinity that I'm starting to feel between myself and the people of the MNIST data set, because there's a part of me that has exceeded my life, right? There's a part of me, like the universal experience of Morry Kolman at this point is not by majority or plurality experienced by myself or my loved ones or those around me. It's experienced by people that are interacting with me in some kind of like mediated, almost anonymous form. And I think that is clear to the nth power with Jean, with Helen, and with everybody else in the MNIST data set, because I mean, just think about how many computers like her way of spelling Q must exist on, right? Like we're talking 100,000 a month. That's tens of millions over the course of the past 40 years. And I don't know what to do with that, right? And I'm just so compelled by this idea of like, what is the difference between that attention, that kind of like, again, not care, attention but not care. What's the difference between that and their lived experience and their actual connections with people in the world? And so I just keep on making things, right? I made these obituaries. I made this collage of marginalia, which I think is really fascinating, right? You get all these different like little pieces of personality. You get people complaining that like, do I use pad or pencil? Or this is my second time doing this. Or, hey, like, I know you're like trying to do a handwriting data set, but I would call this printing because you're asking me to write like specific printed things. I also, and I think this is the thing that I think is like coolest, but also I have no idea what to do with. I've also reconstructed every single one of their fonts. Which there's a different presentation to be had about how much the human has been elided in this structure of this data set, how much of a pain in the ass it is to reconstruct like the original writers and the original like each character that they wrote. But I now have 3,500 fonts of handwriting that I'm trying to figure out what to do with, because I think the thing that's important to me about the handwriting is that it is a handwriting data set, right? But the interesting thing about the data set itself is that it's not actually interested in the handwriting, it's interested in the individual characters. Whether or not the 800,000 characters came from 3,500 individual people or 800,000 unique people kind of doesn't matter, because you're not training a classifier to recognize the person. You're training a classifier to recognize every instance of U versus every instance of V versus every instance of Y, right? And so I think bringing back the humanity to that and saying like, hey, within this data set, there are cohesive, coherent people is just really fascinating to me. And I've been thinking a lot about that. And the question kind of is like, why, right? And like, why do all this? Why go through it? And at least for me, I think it's because it shows the weight of caring about things that machines can't, right? Like a machine cannot understand, it can understand handwriting, but it can only understand it as a class of text, right? This is an example of an E, but the fact that it uses, bubble text versus uses script versus like is very cleanly printed doesn't matter to a computer or a machine, even though to any one of us that would imply something about the person, right? And I think about this a lot because it's also like, again, this attention and this quantity of it and the amount of time spent on it is also something that I think happens to us more and more, right? Like as we live through an age of increasing artificial intelligence, of increasing data extraction from ourselves, over and over, pieces of us that are not, these pieces of us leave our periphery, right? There are facts about me that exist on data centers in Wisconsin that I never see. And there is matrix multiplication going on those facts as we speak. And I ask myself a lot, like, what does that mean for, like, my place in the universe? Like, I understand, like, the meaningfulness of my connections with my friends and the people around me are obviously very meaningful to me. But at least by one objective measure, there is some metric by which all the information, all my informational impact on the world kind of has nothing to do with me. And I find that kind of strange. But I bring that up because at least what I find very meaningful here is that the only reason I know about this project, the only reason I started, the only reason I know about Gene and Helen, is not because of the data that they put in there that was collected. It was actually because of the data that they put in there that wasn't, right? It was the only two pieces of data in both their forms that was not scraped into a database. It was the only two pieces of data in both forms that was written in cursive. And it was the only two pieces of data that they chose to write outside of the margins. And it was their names. So that's it. That's where I'm at with this project. I'm still figuring out what to do with it. But I think there's something really moving and meaningful here. And I hope at the very least that you guys feel the same. Thank you very much. Also, I'm looking for a job. So if you want somebody that can wrangle data, hit me up. Thank you.
Let's give it up one more time for Morry Kolman. Beautiful piece. Thank you, Morry. Coming up next to the WordHack stage, excited to welcome back Melanie Hoff. Melanie is an artist, organizer, technologist, educator, someone who teaches in the exciting intersection of art, sex, and technology. Melanie has taught at the SFPC Sex Ed program and some really amazing classes like digital love languages, and just thinking a lot about how just like the way we interact with technology can really be changed and informed by thinking about our relations with the people who are making it and the society that creates it. And Melanie's really inspired me in my own teaching practice, and someone I'm happy to have had as a creative and artistic peer over the years. Really excited to have them back to present to us this evening. Let's give it up for Melanie Hoff.
One moment. Keynote presenter notes. Remembering how it's showing range. I know. There should be.
You're mirrored right now. I think you want to not be mirrored.
I clicked extend. Oh, I did. If you're right, but I clicked extend. But okay, thank you. Gas my computer. Here we go. Welcome to the origin of the word. Language lineage, lovers, and logins. L'origine du monde, the origin of the world, is a small 1866 realist oil painting by Gustave Courbet that became notorious for its tightly cropped, faceless nude, a reclining person framed so that the origin is literal, unavoidable. Before its installation at Musée d'Orsay, it was famously kept at the psychoanalyst Lacan's home behind a wooden sliding cover. This sliding wooden panel, shown here, controlling access to the painting itself. At once a biological claim, this is where life comes from, and a philosophical dare, this is where meaning begins. The beginning of meaning, the beginning of the word. If this is the origin of the world, it is also the origin of the word. Words make worlds. Word becomes world, codes, words, spells, the name for the lecture I have been giving in my programming classes to introduce natural language processing and computational poetry. Tony Cade Bambara writes, words are to be taken seriously. I try to take seriously acts of language. Words sets things in motion. I've seen them doing it. Words set up atmospheres, electrical fields, charges. I've felt them doing it. Words conjure. I try not to be careless what I utter, write, sing. I'm careful about what I give my throat to. I apologize. I promise. I consent. I accept the cookies. Spoken language, written language, programming language has the power to make things so. Code executes, contracts bind, I do, changes status. I consent, changes access. I accept the cookies. It's often said that the hardest thing about programming is deciding what to name your files, your folders, your variables, and your functions. Every name, a word, every word, a metaphor, every metaphor, an approximation, a pointer, a direction, an arrow. Who decides what parts of our lives, what parts of our experiences get to become words? Perhaps, and even if only just for today, the answer to that question is you. For magic consists in this, the true naming of a thing. Code becomes word, becomes spell. Recurse synonym, a project written in Python, a script that searches and prints a random synonym recursively for the preceding word. Begins with a word you choose, searches a random synonym for that word recursively. Word becomes name, becomes call, becomes cry, becomes weep, becomes moan. Human becomes child, becomes Girl becomes maidservant, becomes subject, becomes submissive, becomes disgrace, becomes degradation, becomes decline, becomes fall, becomes fail. Failure, collapse, yield, catalyze, generate, produce, breed. Raise your hand if you consented to be born. Is a question I ask in consensual hacking. A workshop where we consider what would it take to create the conditions to carefully and consensually enter each other's computers, treating consent as a shared grammar between body and machine. What does it mean to responsibly give and take access and control to our most intimate digital spaces? What does it mean to give and take access and control to our most physical spaces? How does consent travel from skin to keyboard and back again? A portion of the workshop is for creatively thinking through what our boundaries and desires are by designing and signing contracts, because everyone knows law is the best at consent. A social and digital protocol towards a loving, secure, and mutual transgression, consensual hacking. We use the terminal in a networking protocol called SSH, or Secure Shell. Remote login is a lot like astral projection. Consent is not only about declaring what to prevent, like don't delete or move my files, don't touch me here, but it is also about asking for what you do want. What I want you to do while inside my computer is to leave me a TXT file with a stream of consciousness of you in this moment on my hard drive. I touch my keyboard. This is a file of from someone who left this file on my hard drive. Say hi from Oliver.txt. Hello, this is Oliver. I'm in Melanie's computer. And from another person, I touch my keyboard and hope yours feels the same. I hope your keyboard feels the phantom touch of my hands, although I have never made contact with yours. I'm idolizing your laptop. I'm connecting to it on an ethereal plane. A year ago, I found folder poetry. A year ago, I was excited by its possibilities of poetics hidden deep in files. I wondered about my lost Minecraft saves. In the game, you can craft and write books. I think of the chest at the bottom of the sea next to an island I spawned on. I think of what I wrote in that book, buried deep in lines of game code that have been outdated by updates. No one plays 1.7 Minecraft anymore. Obsolete game data. I want to hack into my old games, to emulate them, to emulate how I used to feel exploring vast worlds I did not know could exist on 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think of this text file buried deep in an alternate profile. Will you read this or any of the index cards in this class, Consensual Hacking? I hide secrets in these folders. I'll tell you one right now. I wish that I liked computers as much as I thought I did. I hate being connected to my screen. Computational poetics are a way for me to connect back to the love I used to have, to circumvent the frustrations of incorrect JavaScript parsing. Thank you for sharing what you have. In the class, we also write pseudo-anonymous responses on index cards to questions like, how has consent supported you? How has it failed you? In thinking about physical consent, one of these responders writes, every day, especially on weekends, I just want to sleep more, but my kids will jump on me like I'm a trampoline. Did they get consent because I'm their parent? I didn't consent to this. Has consent failed or supported me? I don't know, haha. How does consent come into play as a parent? And another responder. When I was in primary school, I asked this young, innocent boy for his username and password to an online game where he had spent many hours and had very powerful Pokemon. I stole his account and I avoided him in school after that. I would never do something like this today, but it's humbling to remember I have in the past. I have too. When learning, there is always a level in which when we are learning, we are also practicing what we are learning as we are learning it. Like in physics class, we are feeling the effects of gravity pressing down on our skeleton into the plastic chairs, into the hard wood of the classroom as we are doing the physics equations. When we are learning about cellular reproduction, it is happening inside of us. In gender studies class, gender is operating on our social energies, our dynamics, and our feelings between us and our classmates and the teacher while we are studying in gender studies class. Sometimes it can be helpful to psychologically separate how what we are learning acts on us and within us. Traditional educational spaces prefer to separate, but I do not. I invite connection, to connect the ideas of digital consent and sexual consent as we are currently practicing them together here and now. I invite you to connect your ideas of language, lineage, lovers, and logins. I am practicing them now too, as language pours from my throat and enters your ears. I'm interested in the real, in the here and the now. I did not come here to pretend. Raise your hand if you know every person who created your personal devices and the code that runs on them. No? Not on speed dial, first name basis? No? Okay. Me neither. Raise your hand if you understand every line of code that runs on your devices. All right. Raise your hand if you consented to use your devices. Raise your hand if you use your devices. In consensual hacking, we grapple with the contradictions of consent, like the contradiction of the name of the workshop. The contradiction of consent, the failures of consent, and consent's sublime capacity to create the conditions for what we do want, not only to prevent what we don't want, what we do want, like the feeling of pleasurable overwhelm, or scary overwhelm, or just a lot of feeling. The capacity of consent to create access to experience that swallows all language. Intimacy becomes access, access becomes risk. What if we could access different worlds where we can be together in a different way, different worlds where we may be both born and unborn, made and unmade, spaces for feeling everything all at once until all feeling collapses, compressing to feel the density of everythingness, the vast void, this porous language pouring from this leaking body, feeling things, trying things like you do, like you are. Feel me, feeling you, feeling us, feeling them, feeling, falling, failing, freeing. Folder poetry. A poetic form I gave a name to. Folder poetry is the practice of repurposing the common practice of computer folder organization, like you do, like I do, like we do, as a new kind of poetic form. By naming and nesting folders and files, we can create unfolding narratives, rhythmic prose, and choose your own adventure poetry. Of the hundreds of folder poems on my hard drive, should you ever gain access to it, these are some. The command line is a place made entirely of the first occult technology, the word, writes Zach Mandeville. Both in consensual hacking and when writing folder poetry, we use the terminal, the command line, the shell, one of the first interfaces to the computer. In 1980 BG, before GUI, we didn't open apps, we typed. Our machines responds. The interface was a textual conversation, a call and response. Words enter computers through fingers. In addition to being the Son of God, he was also frequently described as a kind of mother. His side wound would often be likened to a lactating breast, a source of spiritual nourishment. Devotional texts encouraged believers to seek peace and comfort in this wound. And praying with this type of illuminated manuscript involved caressing and kissing the lacerations that have been conveniently isolated and enlarged on the page. Some of these pages today bear the traces of repeated rubbing from especially devoted readers. This medieval interface, a mystical and meditative passageway, a terminal to touch and talk with fingers. Dance poem Revolution is a game. About poetry and revolution. Inspired by the popular rhythm game Dance Dance Revolution, players are invited to write poetry with the weight of their body and with assets from the revolution for the revolution to become assets to the revolution. Dance Dance Revolution, made in 1998 and then open sourced by Stepmania in 2006, in DDR, not to be confused with my DPR, players stand on a dance platform or stage and hit colored arrows to the beat of musical cues. Players are judged by how well they time their dance to the patterns presented to them. The code for my game is made anew, but some of the image assets are directly downloaded from DDR asset packs, of which there's a vibrant wiki community online. In Dance Poem Revolution, there is no judgment, no score, there is no wrong way to play. In Dance Poem Revolution, you play the poem you are writing. Words and videos collaged to form poems are scraped from text by Palestinian poets, social media from the encampments after October 7th, texts from June Jordan, Adrian Rich, Fred Moten, Nina Simone. In Singapore, where it was installed over the last few months, can't remember time. I was about to say last summer, but it was not last summer. It was winter. Singapore, where it was installed somewhat recently, artist Bani Hayal contributed erotica written in Jawi, an Arabic scripted language that existed in resistance to colonization. Each time the game is installed, I work with collaborators to cultivate sources for revolution that speak to that time and place where the game is currently being installed at the time, now, but also historically. Personally, it's about revolution and what it means to ourselves as much as anyone else. What if a game, an iteration of the game, was contextually specific, was cultivated and designed to be contextually specific to you, now, to your revolutions, to your experiences of profound change? And revolution can also be daily, a daily practice. The origin of revolution comes from 18th century French, referring to the revolving motion of celestial bodies. Shared struggle is a series of failed revolutions, one rotation after another, an unrelenting process of failure and remixing. I offer personal, unfixed, everyday definitions of revolution, a million acts of revolt spiraling, careening towards a better tomorrow. Instead of a singular climactic event, a long chain of personal and collective choices we make every day, efforts we effort every day, failures we fail every day. In enlisting the body for poetry, I am reminded what is at stake in revolution. In Dance Poem Revolution, I ask of my collaborators, what does revolution mean to you? In Collective Goon Cave, the last project I will be sharing, I ask, what is erotic to you? Collective Goon Cave, developed within the sex ed program I organized at the School for Poetic Computation, taught from the outer edges of my own questions about technology, about overwhelm and desire. The work took the form of a multi-channel video installation composed of anonymously submitted videos responding to the prompt, share a video that is erotic to you. The installation was informed by research into gooning and goon caves, an internet subculture organized around immersive, screen-saturated environments and durational states of eroticized attention, states of overwhelm touching the sublime. We approached the goon cave as a form of vernacular, digitally enabled folk art. The folk art, both of the handmade physical setups in these goon caves and the folk art of the meticulous media practices of downloading, organizing into folders, running, editing that supports them. The submissions ranged from mukbang and wrestling videos to ocean waves, slugs, and boiling mulberries. Can pornography be art? Can the classroom become a collective goon cave? Individual submissions folded into a communal visual submersion, transforming private reference into collective form. Alongside the installation, we reflected on pornography as a technology of attention, fantasy, and self-education, how online sexual exploration shapes desire, shapes language, creates embodiment, and how pornography can function as both a site of discovery and a constraint on what becomes imaginable, like language. Before screens, there were paintings. Can pornography be art is a question my dad asks in his book of philosophical essays, Art and Pornography, whose cover image is the painting with which this talk takes as its point of departure. L'origine du monde, the origin of the world. The origin of the word isn't abstract, it's tissue. Perhaps words come from the throat. The origin of words is tissue. I was reminded of this when my dad underwent treatment for throat cancer, which permanently altered his voice. The throat is where words come from and where they end. And this is where this talk ends. Like all endings, unspeakable, uncomputable, and without language. In an exhale from my throat, I become wordless.
That was really beautiful. Thank you, Melanie. Let's give it up for Melanie Hoff one more time. I was not expecting Collective Goon Cave to be so spiritually moving. It was very affecting. I know we're running a little later than usual. Thank you all for hanging out, sticking with us. We have one final performer. Last but not least, I'm really excited to have back American artist. American is an artist working with sculpture and technology, and I've really enjoyed just like following American's artworks and career, in that they you can never really predict what kind of piece they're gonna make based on the previous one, and that's a thing I really like in someone I'm paying attention to. And American is someone who I've known through School for Poetic Computation for a long time, and I've been jealous of many of my colleagues for having been able to study with American when I never had a chance to. But I just took my first workshop with American a month ago. So delightful. Really excited to have American back here at WordHack. Let's give it up for American artist.
Thank you, Todd. So, as Todd mentioned, my name is American Artist. That's my real name. You can call me American. Very excited to be here. I realize my slides will be severely warped, but I'm gonna read for context, so hopefully you still get a fair amount of information. So I actually did WordHack 3 years ago, so that was my last experience here, and I had a really great time. And what was really special about it and why it was so memorable is that it was the day after my first date with the love of my life, who's here, Rebecca. So yeah, almost like our anniversary coming up. So if you're trying to figure out your love life, WordHack is a good place to go. And for that reason, I had to come back and just have a good time. So I'm an artist and educator, and I make what I like to call thought experiments, because oftentimes my work begins with a concept, but the medium itself is sort of nebulous. I think that the art objects that you see are sort of a fossil of the actual process. The process is an ongoing generative thing, and out of that process come objects that fall into museums or galleries where you encounter them like relics of something that has happened. That's kind of how I think about it. So today I'm going to talk about a work called Power Grid, and it's had a few iterations, which is why I just want to focus on this one piece. And it didn't start out as an artwork. It started out as just like a thought experiment, something I was trying to understand. And this is my early ChatGPT conversation, where I asked, if the qualities that make something carceral are confinement, rigidity, discomfort, alienation, what is an antonym for carceral? I want a similar type of word that represents qualities of vibrancy, lusciousness, human connection, and natural elements. And the reason I asked this, I was trying to understand sort of like physically, materially, experientially, how the idea of incarceration is sort of like communicated or felt, but also what is the opposite of that. A lot of my work has thought about incarceration or carceral practices, and also abolition, or how we imagine a world that's less carceral. And one of the words that came out of this ChatGPT conversation was eudaimonic or eudaimonia, which I had never heard this word before. But it connotes well-being, human-centeredness, and purposeful joy. And it works well if you're emphasizing emotional and philosophical freedom. So then I wanted to create a sort of like Cartesian grid that had like the carceral to the eudaimonic, and then also the sort of class difference of impoverished to wealthy. And I asked ChatGPT to make me a grid. And it gave me this piece of shit, and I realized that I should just make my own, and that's how this piece started. So this was an early version that I made. So again, this piece is called Power Grid, and this is how it looked about a year ago when I was first starting to kind of like plot out what this might look like. And really, I wanted to use this as an experiment to try and understand what are different social positions or experiences that might exist, within all of the points of this grid. So how do you experience freedom versus captivity across wealth and class lines? So some examples, you have property ownership around here, getting a traffic ticket, monetary debt, business class international travel, having a desk job, owning a private island is up there. So just to give you an idea, and it's at this point it was like quite empty. It looks a little more like magazine style design. So eventually it evolved into this very minimal iteration. And this became the first version of Power Grid. And this was intended as like a wall stencil. So this actually recently exhibited for an exhibition in Los Angeles, and this was shown on like a wall that's about like 30 feet long. And something that's important to me about this work is to think of it as a set of information that can sort of like take different forms, but really the information is the work. And so thinking about that, I was thinking of artists like Sol LeWitt, who's a well-known minimalist conceptual artist. this is an image of Solowit making one of his artworks that's a wall drawing, and it's essentially like a set of instructions. So you could communicate that set of instructions to someone else who could create it. It doesn't really matter who actually does the drawing, as long as the outcome is based off of those initial instructions. And another example of one of Solowit's finished works, it essentially comes this large abstract wall mural. And another artist I was thinking about, Lawrence Weiner, who makes these text-based pieces, and a lot of them are sort of describing an action happening. So for example, this wall piece, which says, an object tossed from one country to another. And this was in 1968. So this was the first iteration of Power Grid, and this was painted in like a metallic ink using a wall stencil. And because of the large scale of it, it's really hard to actually access these different points simultaneously. You kind of have to spend time with it and walk across the gallery and sort of, you know, think about who is inhabiting these different social positions. So this is sort of a closer up view. So let's see. So right in the smack dab in the middle, we have desk employment. And then let's see. In this version, I had poverty at the top. And so you have things such as like political organizing, safe drug site usage, unemployed houselessness, political education, video game arcade playing, which is relevant tonight. But yeah, I tried to really think about what are all the different increments of experience that might, you know, have a position within this grid. And this is another image that kind of shows towards the direction of freedom. And the middle line is sort of like where I imagine middle class. And as you move towards freedom, you have US citizenship, vacationing, and retirement is your ultimate freedom. So again, I wanted to think about the data of this work as being the artwork. And so this is a different version, which I titled Power Grid 2. And this was made using a pin plotter, and it's just on like a scrap piece of cardboard. And the quadrant titles are pinned with like a ballpoint ink pen and a pencil. And then on top of that is like a white gel pen that's used to write the different grid points. And then the next iteration is this light box. And for this one, the grid takes more of a traditional square form, and it's like that big. So you can actually kind of, you know, see many points at once, and it changes your relationship to it versus seeing it on a large wall. And so I've made a couple of these as well. And this is like a screen printed image that's on the light box. And something else that was interesting to me was to have the grid be something that could change orientation. So as it's shown in different occasions, these different quadrants also change position. So freedom and captivity might move, wealth and poverty might also switch positions, but the points relatively stay the same. And also there were some circumstances where I can imagine multiple points occupying the same point, but given the nature of how it's designed, they necessarily have to occupy different positions. So right now I'm working with this magazine in London called Pina, and we're making like a installation within the magazine. And an idea that we had was to create this poster version of the Power Grid. And the editor, Catalina Imiskos, suggested having images from like real news events that sort of like map onto these different positions within the grid. And so I've been scouring like the online archive of news, which is really fascinating. If you've never seen it before, you can kind of see like all news like for a very long time. And you can search using words to find these different moments and see these different images of the news. And so I've been selecting different moments in time to sort of like map onto different moments within the grid. And this is going to be like sort of translucent paper, so you would actually like, on one side is the images and the other side is the printed grid. And then there will be image spreads that sort of like show these images larger. So this one I associated with permanent fugitivity, and this is an image of a drone strike. And this one I attached to executive business advising. And this gathering with family. Desk employment. And carceral sentencing. So I'm now working on, I guess, my fourth or fifth version of what form this grid might take. And something that I've wanted to do is think about how different positions within the grid might, I guess, like represent or like have a relationship to the grid itself. And so I'm thinking about this, particular region where you have like heroic dose, you have night clubbing, you have like this kind of like nightlife sort of like psychedelic aspect of the grid. And so I'm working on a version of this. Some of you may know what this is. These are like blotter sheet tabs. And so it's basically paper that is printed on this size sheet. It's about 7.5 inches wide. And it contains about 900 quarter-inch squares of paper, and you can tear them off. And these are typically laced with illicit substances. I won't say what. And it's also a sort of like subculture of art because, these were very popular like when psychedelics were at their peak. And so there's a lot of art that's actually like printed onto blotter sheets. But I thought, these are actually a grid in and of themselves. So this would be the perfect place to place the power grid. So this is how it's gonna look, and what I love about this iteration of it is that it can be oriented in any direction. So unlike the other ones where there is sort of like a top and bottom, this one could actually be rotated in any direction. And this is gonna be the 5th power grid. And yeah, so this is sort of a close-up. Public billionaire, antitrust law defense, protection by private security. Yeah, and that was shorter than I thought, but I'm done. Soon.
Let's give it up one more time for American Artist. Keep your eyes out for the power grid on blotter sheet. I've got one last small thing to show you on my computer, and then we'll get out of here. Yeah, before I go, I had to introduce you all to the friendship computer. As many of you know, my job is I'm one of the co-directors of School for Poetic Computation. And yeah, it's a cool place. A lot of you have been there, and I hope some of you that haven't. If you like the vibe at WordHack, you'll like the vibe at SFPC. And we're having our first really big event in a long time this June 20th and 21st. It's going to be at Roulette. I was just there earlier today. The space is really cool. It's like a tricked out high school gymnasium. It's nice. It's going to be a prom and graduation. We're calling it Poetic Promenade. We've got some graduates that might be in this very room. If you're graduating, do you want to raise your hand and say hello? We've got some people that are graduating this year. Hell yeah, love to see it. And it's going to be a really cool party and a really wonderful celebratory cultural educational experience. Americans on a panel. I'll say some stuff too. Morry's graduating. It's going to be great. And really, the most important thing is the friendship computer said I had to send this to 10 friends in the next 10 hours. And so I just wanted to make sure I did that. So will you all go to prom with me? It's the 20th and the 21st. Prom is Saturday night, and then graduation is Sunday in the afternoon. There's some cool DJs. Here's the friendship computer in gray. He's a little scary, but mostly he's a friend. Yeah, I hope you all go. Yeah, single day tickets are $65, but if you've taken an SFPC class, tickets are a lot cheaper, so check your email. We just launched our Will You Go to Prom With Me campaign, so you can get these cute little gifts featuring the friendship computer. You can send this to your friends, and they'll like it, I promise. I know because you all like it. Shouts out to our designer, Sarah Martinez, for inventing this incredible little guy. Cool. That's all I have for you. June 20th and 21st, you can find it on the sfpc.study. It's our homepage. Our next WordHack is June 18th, I believe. And we are going to be joined by Chiku Komiya, Nolan Royalty, and Liz Thabit, and maybe one more special guest to be announced. It's June 18th. If you had a good time tonight, you'll have as good or better of a time on Thursday, June 18th. Please come back. All right, I'm reaching the end of my patience for holding the audience hostage. I think it's time for you to have a fun time and talk to each other and say nice things to all of our featured presenters. Let's give it up one more time for our featured presenters. And let's give it up one more time for our tech person, Rhodey, for focusing the projector. It looked so good. I could read all of the tiny text on Melanie's slides. It was great. I loved it. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good night.